Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Section 1.2 still, we're going to talk about stretch and shrink. We talked about this in Algebra 1 Spring. I get confused with the way they change the numbers. It's Algebra 1 Spring, which we used to know as Algebra 2. We know that if, okay, let's go on with this way. I've got my general formula for the absolute value. A times the absolute value of x minus h plus k. We know that if A is positive, then my absolute value graph is going to open upward. If A is negative, my absolute value graph is going to open downward. Absolute value is always a V. If A is greater than 0, that absolute value guy is going to stretch. It's going to get long and skinny. The higher that number is, the skinnier it'll be, the more it will stretch. And that's basically going to be your slope. We can find that with the slope. And if A is less than 0, it's going to be a shrink. So it'll be something like this. It'll get wider. Notice A less than 0 does not mean negative. We already have it. If A is negative, it opens down. If this means it's a fraction. If it's less than 0, that means it's a fraction or something like that, and it will get wider and wider and wider the lower that number is from 0. But the negative is what makes it flip upside down. Okay, so what we're going to do first of all is get my notes so that I know what I am talking about. And of course I can't find my notes. All right, here are my notes. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a function and you're going to tell me everything about it. So I'm going to tell you that f of x, example number 1, we have f of x, and you know what? I'm going to put it on my paper here instead of where I'm putting it right now. Get this, and let me get this, and let me get that, and there we go. Now let me get my pens. So f of x is equal to the absolute value of x plus 2, and I had minus 1. Okay, remember whenever we have this form, it's basically called vertex form because we know that my vertex is going to be the opposite of whatever's inside there, h, comma, and that's going to be the same as that number right there. That will be my vertex, h, comma, k. All right, everything we know about this guy. We know, first of all, that A is going to be equal to 1. A equals 1 because we don't have a number there, so we understand it's going to be 1. We also know now, since that's positive, this guy is going to open up. My vertex is going to be the opposite of what's inside there, so that's a negative 2, and the same as what's there, negative 1. Negative 2, negative 1. Next I want to know, is there a stretch at all? Is that number greater than 0? It's just 1, so it's going to be normal. That's my... And you know what? I think I want to say if A is greater than 1 or less than 1. That will determine whether it's a stretch or a shrink. Alright, so since we knew from this my vertex was a negative 2, negative 1. So negative 1, 2, negative 1 is going to be right there. That's the same as what we said the other day. It's going to go down 1 and to the left 1, 2. Same thing, negative 2, negative 1. My slope is going to be 1. So this is going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and on the other side. And again, you guys are using a straight edge every single time, or I will not accept it. Again, be sure your name is on your paper. This one's going to be a worksheet. Be sure your name is on your paper, first name and last name. Make sure I can read it. Show me all of your work, whatever work is required. You're going to show me all this stuff, and then we'll go from there. All right, so our next example. We'll call it example number 2. And I need to work faster, I think, because of good old YouTube. F of x was negative 2. Negative 2 times the absolute value of x minus 1 plus 2. Everything we know about it. That negative tells me it's going to open downward. That 2 tells me it's going to be a stretch. So my A right now is equal to 2. Oh, we'll say a negative 2. My A is equal to a negative 2. Because it's negative, this guy is going to open down. Because of that negative. So it opens down. My vertex is going to be the opposite of that negative 1, positive 1, and the same as that 2, h comma k. And lastly, we're going to say that this guy, since that's a 2, I'm looking at the 2, that's greater than 1, so this guy is going to be a stretch. A stretch by a factor of 2. Factor of 2. You know what I said. Stretch by a factor of 2. Alright, so my vertex we said is going to be at 1, comma 2. So it's going to be 1, comma 1, 2. Okay? We also said now that that negative tells me it's going to open downward. This is basically our slope. So from here, we know that this guy is going to be down 2 and to the right 1. Just like the slope of a line. So from here I go down 1, 2 and over 1. 1, 2 and over 1. On the other side, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. If you'll notice that compared to my parent graph, that compared to my parent graph, it is a little bit skinnier than my parent graph because I have a stretch. Okay? Okay. So now then, that was example number 2. I want you to go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to try this problem. And we have f of x is equal to 1/2 is equal to 1/2 times the absolute value of x plus 4. Stop the video and try it on your own. When you're done, start the video again. Okay, so my A in this case is equal to 1/2. My A is greater than 0. It's positive, in other words. So since it's positive, I know that this guy is going to open up. Since it's opening up, I also know now that my vertex, opening up has nothing to do with my vertex. My vertex in here, I don't have anything with the x. So that's really a 0 inside there and 4. 0, comma 4. And this guy is going to be a shrink by a factor of 1/2. And we'll see that my vertex is 0, comma 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then my slope is going to be up 1 over 2. 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 up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. Now you can see that that 1/2 less than 0 made a much wider function, much wider graph of our function. Greater than 0, it's a stretch. It'll be from here, it'll stretch it. Less than 0, it'll be a shrink and get it much, much wider. All right. And sayonara. Have a great weekend.